In this video, we're going to take a look at the filters that are available to us in Photoshop, and we can use them to create a number of effects. You'll find them in the menu drop down here under Filter, and you'll see that there's a lot of options, and they're broken down into sections. The first section here is Convert for Smart Filters, and we're not going to look at that in this video, but we're going to look at Filter Gallery. Camera Raw is primarily just for photographs that are taken using the RAW format. Adaptive Wide Angle is another filter that we probably wouldn't use on a regular basis. It's again used for photographs that are taken using a wide angle lens so that you can correct the tilt and the angle. A lens correction, same kind of thing. We will look at liquify, oil paint, and vanishing point. We also have a lot of standard filters that we would use on a fairly regular basis, like blur, distort, noise, pixelate, render, sharpen, stylize. There's some video filters here we probably wouldn't use. And then there's high pass, offset, maximum, minimum. Most of these you'll likely never use, but I'll show you a few tricks. And then if you have additional filters that you've installed as plugins, they would be located in this section here. You can see I have several installed as well of these. And so first thing we're going to do is start off by looking at the filter gallery. It's a good place to start because there's a lot of options available to us there. And whenever I select a filter gallery, this is the default, and I'm going to zoom out on our picture so we can see the whole picture here. And what's really cool about these filters is we can apply them to our image or photograph and achieve different looks and results. Very often they don't have a lot of settings that we can change, but there are some. Like in this case, we can control pencil width, stroke pressure, paper brightness, and so on. With cutout, which is actually one that I use very often, we can control the number of levels of the color. Edge simplicity, which basically just controls the amount of detail on your edges. And edge fidelity is, in this simplicity, how close it is to the original shape. Very similar to posterize, actually, but it's great for reducing the amount of detail that you have in an object or in an image. Dry brush is another one that I really like a lot, and the reason why is because it's a great way to hide artifacting that can happen whenever you enlarge a picture. And so I'll often use it by setting brush detail to 10 and the brush size down to 0, and you notice that it doesn't really look like it's affecting the image hardly at all. That's one of the great benefits to it, because if we're enlarging an image, that can be a very important feature for us. Now you'll notice that if I increase the brush size and decrease the brush detail, the end result is going to be a little bit more artistic. Same with film grain. It just simply adds a level of grain to the image, and it's kind of a little hard to see because I'm zoomed out some, but there you can see it a little bit more, how there's grain in the detail areas. Fresco turns it into a painting of sorts. Some of these I don't really use that often. Palette knife is one that I'll use occasionally, again for a different effect. Rough pastels is one that can be kind of fun. Same with underpainting, which I've used on occasion. So really, I would encourage you to just get in here with a photograph or photographs that you have and experiment with these and with the settings just by moving them around. Brush strokes is meant to mimic certain kinds of painting styles. It's okay. I wouldn't consider it super awesome, but it does okay in some of those effects. So again, I just encourage you to test them out. I mean, some effects are going to work better with certain kinds of images than others. Okay. Distort, pretty basics. Glass, this one here actually can be used in some pretty interesting ways. You'll notice that you have a choice of textures. So you can get some pretty cool effects with that. This is one that I like and have used on occasion. Diffuse glow, it just really emphasizes and blurs the highlight areas. Sketch, again, you can mimic certain kinds of sketches, at least as a starting point. And then we have stylize, which is kind of funky, glowing edges. and then texture, which can come in handy if you want to add certain kinds of textures to your picture. Like, that's kind of cool. You lose the detail somewhat, but you can decrease the cell size, which can make it a little more recognizable. You also have control over the border thickness and the light, or you can add a texture to it if you want to make it look like it was created on canvas, or you have other options here as well, like sandstone, for instance. And so that's how this set of filters work. It really, I would encourage you to just experiment with them. And by the way, you can actually stack these filters. You'll notice over here on the right where you have the eyeball and texturizer, if I click the plus sign, I can actually stack filters. So like, let's say that I want to use, what would be a good example? Maybe dry brush together with the texturizer. Okay, so you can use them in tandem and you can stack as many as you like. So using the stacking feature, you can actually come up with additional cool looking effects that otherwise you may not be able to achieve using just one. And of course, if you decide, I don't know that I really care for that, you can always click the trash can on the layer that you have selected and it'll delete it. So I'm just going to click OK to apply that. Next, we're going to take a look at Liquify. And Liquify is an interesting filter because it gives you the ability to manipulate your image. You have control over your brush size. You notice right now I have a brush here. But basically the way it looks, it treats your photograph as if it were liquid. But if you'll notice, if I left mouse click and drag, I can actually manipulate my image. And it maintains the integrity of the image pretty well. You'll notice that if I increase the brush size by a lot, so that I end up with this big brush, that gives me some pretty cool effects because it mostly protects the integrity of whatever's inside the brush. So if I left mouse click and drag, you notice that I can affect the potato very subtly. You know, so it's not warping it in some weird funky way. Now you can do that. Like for instance, with the next brush actually is a reconstruction tool. So this allows you to go back and change what had already been. This is kind of like an undo brush, if you will. Okay, so you'll notice that it's warping, but it actually isn't warping. It's restoring. It's like a history brush or an undo brush. The next brush is a pucker tool. And so anywhere you click, it just kind of sucks things in. And usually, if I use this, I'll use it with a bigger brush and I can just demonstrate. Like watch what happens if I just simply click and hold my mouse button down. Notice, see how it's all being like it's being sucked into a black hole. The next brush does the exact opposite. Okay. It bulges everything. Just by holding the mouse button down. Okay? And the next tool that we have here, it just gives you the ability to push left. Okay? So it's another subtle tool that can come in handy in some cases. This is a move tool in case you're trying to navigate around a picture that you're zoomed in on. Okay, and then this of course is the zoom, which, you know, by default it's plus. If you choose the Alt or Option key, it'll allow you to zoom out. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. In the next video, we're going to continue to explore some of our other filter options like oil paint and some of the others that are down in this next section.